Welcome to today's video, where we challenge a long-standing money myth that renting is throwing money away. Instead, we'll show how renting is the predictable purchase of shelter, while buying commits you to a complex set of costs and risks. To set the stage, we'll outline the financial realities of renting versus owning, the hidden costs of ownership, the unique risks of condos, and why stability and safety nets must come before status. Next, we will walk through decision steps, run comparisons, and put your understanding to the test with quick quizzes. Here is our agenda. First, we will debunk the myth that renting is throwing money away. Then, we will unpack the true costs of homeownership beyond the mortgage. After that, we will explore the condo conundrum and the risks of special assessments.
Next, we will discuss why financial stability should come before status. We will also walk through a practical decision framework, analyze scenarios with visuals and diagrams, test your knowledge with brief quizzes, and finally summarize key takeaways along with a disclaimer.
Let's start by reframing the myth. Renting is not wasting money. It is a predictable payment for shelter, just like paying for transportation or food. Meanwhile, homeownership is not just a mortgage. It introduces debt, variability, and ongoing obligations. This reframing helps us evaluate choices with clarity. Next, we will quantify the hidden costs that make ownership far more expensive and unpredictable than the monthly mortgage implies. Renting can be a smart, intentional choice. You are essentially buying platform predictability. Your lease and renter's insurance are straightforward, and you're shielded from maintenance and property tax surprises. Your capital remains liquid, which means you can invest in diversified markets or keep a robust emergency fund. Furthermore, mobility can align with career opportunities, moving closer to higher-paying work or better teams without the friction of selling a property. Next, we'll look at the real and often underestimated costs of owning a home. This flowchart visualizes a practical decision pathway. First, it checks whether you have a 6 to 12-month emergency fund. Without it, the recommendation is to rent and build reserves. If you do, it evaluates affordability using total housing cost as a share of take-home pay and your debt-to-income ratio. If affordability fails, it advises renting or considering a smaller purchase. For condos, it calls out the health of the HOA. Poor reserves imply special assessment risks and suggest caution. Finally, it considers your time horizon. Staying 7 years or more can make buying viable due to transaction costs and market cycles. Otherwise, renting preserves flexibility. Next, let's quantify the hidden costs that get people into trouble. Owning a home adds layers of costs beyond the principal and interest payment. You must budget for property taxes and homeowners insurance. More importantly, maintenance and repairs typically run 1 to 3% of the property's value each year. Over time, major systems like roofs, HVAC, and windows require replacement. Buying and selling also carry significant transaction costs, making short holding periods risky. Finally, liquidity is limited. Selling under pressure often means price concessions. Without robust reserves, a job loss or income shock can quickly escalate into financial distress. Now let's visualize how these costs stack up across a typical year. This pie chart illustrates a stylized breakdown of annual homeownership costs. Mortgage interest often dominates early years. Property taxes and insurance add meaningful weight. Maintenance and repairs are a substantial recurring slice, while HOA or condo fees can be significant in multifamily communities. Setting aside funds for capital upgrades is prudent and reduces the shock of large expenses. Finally, differences in utilities and miscellaneous items round out the total. With that cost structure in mind, we can turn to the special risks of condominiums. Condos can appear to be an affordable entry point, but the risks are unique. Monthly HOA fees increase your ongoing costs. Special assessments can arrive without warning and require large lump sum payments.
Historically, appreciation for condos tends to lag behind single-family homes in many markets.
Often, the financial benefit of a condo resembles localized rent control rather than significant equity growth. Before buying, scrutinize the HOA's reserves, review prior assessments, and read maintenance schedules and engineering reports. Now, let's look at illustrative numbers comparing 5-year cash outlays for renting versus buying. This table provides an illustrative, simplified, 5-year comparison. Renting at an average of $2,200 per month totals roughly $132,000, plus about $1,000 for renter's insurance. On the buying side, we estimate a condo purchase at $450,000, with typical monthly costs including interest, taxes, and insurance. Maintenance is assumed at 2% of home value annually.
HOA fees and a modest special assessment are added.
We include down payment and closing costs as cash outlays, and subtract estimated principal paydown as a benefit. The resulting net cash out is illustrative and can vary widely by market, interest rates, down payment, and maintenance surprises. Next, we will map these costs over time to highlight cash flow differences.
This timeline maps the rhythm of cash flows.
At the start, renting requires a modest deposit, while buying demands a substantial down payment and closing costs. Over years 1 through 5, rent remains relatively predictable with gradual increases, while ownership includes monthly payments plus intermittent maintenance spikes and a potential special assessment. If moving at year 5, owners also face transaction costs to sell, whereas renters transition with comparatively low friction. Now, let's compare the strategic advantages side by side. On the left, renting emphasizes stability, liquidity, and flexibility. It avoids maintenance volatility and enables investing extra capital into diversified assets. This reduces downside risk when careers evolve. On the right, buying introduces irregular costs and location lock-in, along with maintenance and capital expenditure responsibilities. Condos add HOA fees and potential assessments. That said, over sufficiently long horizons and in healthy markets, buying can build equity. The key is aligning the decision with your financial resilience and time horizon.
Next, let's walk through a practical decision framework you can apply today.
Here is a concise framework. First, accumulate 6 to 12 months of living expenses as an emergency fund. Second, eliminate high-interest consumer debt because it erodes cash flow and borrowing capacity. Third, ensure affordability by keeping total housing costs within roughly 30% of take-home pay and maintaining a debt-to-income ratio below 36%. Fourth, budget ownership comprehensively, including maintenance at 1 to 3% of property value and potential HOA and capital expenditures. Fifth, for condos, evaluate HOA reserves, special assessment history, and engineering reports. Sixth, align your time horizon and aim for 7 or more years to offset transaction costs. Seventh, compare after-investment outcomes by modeling what your liquid capital can earn if you keep renting and investing. Next, we'll capture these ideas with a short markdown-style summary for quick reference.
Here are markdown-style quick notes for fast recall. The core principle is that stability should come before status. Renting provides predictable shelter and flexibility. Buying introduces leverage, volatility, and ongoing upkeep. A useful rule of thumb is to budget 1 to 3% of the home's value annually for maintenance. If you cannot absorb a sudden multi-thousand-dollar expense, you are not ready to buy. For condos, focus on reserves, assessment history, maintenance plans, and insurance coverage. While renting, consider investing surplus cash in diversified assets. Next, let's test your understanding with a short quiz. Quiz time. Which statement is most accurate for first-time buyers without a 6 to 12-month emergency fund? Option A, buy now to start building equity and handle repairs later. Option B, rent for now and build reserves because ownership without a buffer is risky. Option C, skip HOA research because fees are fixed and predictable. Option D, maintenance is typically negligible in the first 5 years. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is to rent for now and build reserves because ownership without a buffer is risky. The reason is that maintenance, repairs, and potential income shocks make homeownership volatile. A strong emergency fund is a critical prerequisite to safely buying. Next question. For a condo purchase, which factor is most critical to evaluate? Option A, the paint color in the lobby. Option B, HOA reserves, special assessment history, and engineering reports. Option C, the number of nearby coffee shops. Option D, whether your friends also live in condos. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is the HOA's reserves, special assessment history, and engineering reports. These items reveal the building's financial health and your risk of large, unexpected expenses. Now, let's consolidate the key points before we add an important disclaimer.
Here are the key takeaways. Renting is a predictable purchase of shelter rather than wasted money. Ownership costs extend well beyond the mortgage payment. Condos introduce HOA fees and special assessment risks. Build an emergency fund and reduce debt before buying. A longer holding period improves the economics of ownership. Finally, investing your liquid capital while renting can, in many cases, produce better long-term outcomes than relying solely on home equity. This segment is an important disclaimer. The content in this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Housing markets, mortgage rates, taxes, and individual circumstances vary considerably. Before making any decisions, consult a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professionals.
Next, we will wrap up with a concise summary and a call to action. In closing, prioritize stability by building an emergency fund and eliminating high-interest debt. Budget the full costs of ownership, including maintenance, taxes, insurance, and potential HOA assessments. Verify condo financial health before committing. If purchasing jeopardizes your safety net, renting is the prudent choice. Use structured decision frameworks and invest with intention. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you rethink the rent versus buy decision, please like, share, and subscribe for more practical money content. I would love to hear your experiences and questions in the comments.